Hey guys, I am Game Advisor and welcome back to another Back 4 Blood video. Today we'll be talking about a guide that will help you to deal with the Abomination, also known as Act 4 or the final boss. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the sake of this video, we're going to be dividing the boss fight up into 3 phases. You have Phase 1, also known as Tentacle Phase, Phase 2, which we're hereby going to refer to as the Head Phase, and Phase 3, which we're going to call the Zit Phase. We'll get into each and every one and how to deal with each phase as you progress through the fight. So let's start out with Phase 0/Phase 1, which is going to be setting up for the boss fight as well as how to deal with the tentacles. So the first thing we need to take note of is when you're prepping for the boss fight, you're going to want to go ahead and look down at the end of the helicopter as there's going to be a bunch of guns laid out for you. Sure, many of you already know that, but these guns can be very powerful and very helpful. After getting all your gear and your loadout ready to go, you can go ahead and pre-throw some pipe bombs if you have some extra currency, and then go buy some more before you actually start the round in order to clear out the zombies in the area, just to make sure you don't take any excess damage. Now, another thing you can do is before the boss fight starts, you can have 3 of your 4 players drop down from the little staircase you take up to get into the boss arena. Once you're in there, those 3 players can clear out the area as well as make sure they check for any valuable loot, open all the boxes so that you're ready to go, have gas containers where they need to be, and all sorts of good stuff. The boss fight will not begin until all 4 players have dropped down from that staircase. You can take as long as you need from my experience, so take the time you need. Make sure you get everything you need ready to go, everything set up in the right place, everybody's in the right stance, everybody's got the best gun they can get, and then start the fight. Now, once the fight begins, we're first going to deal with the tentacle closest to where the stair drops in the back right corner of the zone. Now, what you're going to want to do is relatively group up your team. Hopefully, if you're playing on Recruit, this won't be an issue, but if you're playing on higher difficulties, you're going to want one player who is dedicated to focusing down as many of the little zombies as possible. 99% of the time when people wipe on this fight, it's actually not due to the tentacle smacking them, but is instead due to everybody focusing it so hard and getting tunnel vision that they end up getting overwhelmed and get killed. So what we're going to do is have that one player focus on all the horde as much as possible, as well as call out any incoming mutations or special zombies, whatever you want to call them. Now, when you see a special, it should be your #1 priority to burn it down as fast as possible. After that, if there's nothing else for you to do and you happen to be the zombie killing guy, you can jump on with the team and start burning the tentacle down. In order to do damage to it, you're going to want to look for it to show its little red face. Now, it will do this twice. It will stop, it will open up and look at a certain player, and then it will close, swing, and then open up for a much longer period of time, and that is your burn phase. During that phase, your 3 DPS players need to be burning this as hard as they possibly can. You need to get through this thing fast. Ideally, on some of the higher difficulties, you want to get through it in no more than 3 phases. If you're all running good damage builds, this should be possible. Now, on Recruit or on Veteran, you can sometimes even 1 phase or 2 phase it, but when you're playing on things like Nightmare, it's really hard to try to get it in 2 phases. So I would recommend that you take the time, focus more so on not taking damage than anything else. If you cannot take damage, this is going to be much easier than risking a little bit of extra damage and end up getting one shot by the tentacle when you're playing on the harder difficulties. Now again, when it opens up, you're going to see it open up for a first time, and when it closes, that means it's selected its target, and as soon as you see it close, you need to move out of the way. That is how you dodge it. After that, it then again will do that slam, and you're going to start burning it when it opens up for the second time. Don't worry too much about when it opens the first time. Only note that that is when you need to start being ready to dodge. After that, we're going to move to the next tentacle, and on this one, there is a little spot where you can back up just enough against the walls near the staircase in order to be out of range of the tentacle, but it will still swing at you. You can try to abuse this, but otherwise, you do this one just like the previous one, and just be careful of all the acid that the one behind you is spewing out, otherwise you're going to take excess damage you don't need to take. Aside from that, you're just going to do your best to continue around clockwise and clear out every single one of the 4 tentacles. After doing so, you'll then want to make sure everybody is loaded up on as much ammo as possible, but keep in mind specials can still spawn after the 4th tentacle has died. So you still have to be aware you're not totally safe just because you've downed all 4. Now, once you finish this, you're all going to transition through the same hole at the same time for Phase 2, also known as the Head Phase. Phase 2 is a little bit more complicated. So in Phase 2, we have a few mechanics the boss is going to do. The first one is if you get too close to his head, he will bite you. This is why shotguns are generally not too good on this boss fight, because they're significantly less effective for this phase and for Phase 3. This is why we're going to be standing relatively close to the back wall, but not all the way against the back wall. And the reason for that is you're going to have hordes spawn behind you as well as in front of you in the front left and front right, as well as each of the 4 tunnels from behind, and a couple extra spawn points as well. At the end of the day, well, again, we're going to do the same major strategy here, which is you're going to have 3 people focusing damage on the boss and always killing specials whenever they're up, as well as 1 person always focusing on killing Ridden. Now in this phase, some of the people doing DPS on boss will have to come off to deal with the Ridden spawning from different directions. This is where we're going to be using most of our pipe bombs if we have any. This is in order to keep them off of us so we can all burn the boss's mouth as fast as possible. In order to not take damage during this phase though, you're going to want to look up and you'll see 4 holes in which little tentacles can come out of. I believe it's 4, it might be 5. Either way, there's going to be little holes, you'll see the tentacles spawn from them. Now there is a chance one spawns from every single hole. If this happens, you need to go all the way to the left or all the way to the right of the map and you should be able to dodge the damage. Again, if you're all the way against that back wall though, you can still get hit by it. That's why I usually recommend you just go all the way to the left or right and communicate with your team beforehand which wall you're going to choose. That way you all go in the same direction together. Now, if there isn't a tentacle in one of them, you're going to go ahead and try to place yourself in between where that hole is that is empty. Do keep in mind though that if 2 spawn from the same hole, sometimes one can reach over a little bit, so you have to still be very cautious with this. If you don't see a clear opening, I always recommend again, just go to the side. It's much safer, it's much easier, but if you can, it's better to stay in the center to optimize your DPS. On top of that, the tentacles can also do a slam effect. After they do their first launch out where they hit the back wall, they won't deal damage to you if you touch them, but instead they will do a slam every so often. Usually they only do 1 or 2 in between each of the times it launches its tentacles. Do your absolute best to be aware of this, because you can be pushed up against a tentacle while it's laying flat on the ground, but as soon as you see it start to lift up even a little bit, it's gonna slam back down and there's a good chance it's gonna take a huge amount of your HP out. I see people get hit by this more than anything else on this stage, so do your absolute best to try to stay away from them. Just don't touch them if you can avoid it. It's not a very big AoE, you just have to be aware that it's there and keep your spacing in mind. The most important thing I can tell you if you're struggling with this phase is don't get too close and get bit, do your best to dodge tentacles, and above all else, clear the horde and clear specials first. That is the mistake everybody makes. If you don't clear the horde and you don't clear specials, you are going to get overwhelmed and you will die. Most people do not die to the tentacles, but instead die from focusing the boss too hard and not dealing with the horde around them. Now, as we transition into phase 3, before you get started, you're going to see the boss will kind of freeze up for a second. Do keep in mind he can still bite you until you see his health bar appear at the top and he starts backing away from the hole in the wall. Now, once you enter the phase 3 room, also known as zit phase from here on out, you're going to go ahead and position yourself a little bit down the hill, but not too far, otherwise you might get stomped by the boss. Now, the reason we're positioning here is so that we can all burn down together the first zit on his right side. The other 3 can all be accessed from the left or his underneath. So we're going to burn that first one down as fast as we can. Again, if we have another pipe bomb available, we're going to throw that right here so we can burn this one down without having to deal with the initial horde. As soon as that one bursts, you're going to run back up and take a left as if you were to be entering the boss room. So if you're coming back up that little ramp, it'll be your right. Now, when you head down that way, you're going to be looking for his back. On his back, you will see another zit. This is where your ARs are going to come in and sniper rifles because it does have a lot of distance. Again, SMGs do work here, but shotguns are just bad at this boss. The distance sometimes you have to fire are just not good for you to have to deal with. So everybody, again, we're going to throw another pipe bomb if we have one, and we're going to burn that one down as fast as possible. Now, at this point, hopefully you haven't started him transitioning into the second room of phase 3, also known as zit phase, and then we can go ahead and burn the one on his bottom left. However, if you haven't gotten to that one yet, it's okay. That's the lowest priority zit out of all of them. Now, the most important one for you to deal with is going to be when he crawls over the little underpass. When he crawls over that, all 4 of you need to get underneath the underpass and burn that zit underneath him as fast as possible. That one is the most annoying to deal with out of all of them, so focus it as hard as you can. Again, if we can burn the one on the left before that one becomes available to shoot, that's great, and that's what we're going to do. But on the harder difficulties, that doesn't always happen. Now, once we're in the second room, again, at this point, it's just hug the left, Don't fall off, keep dealing with specials, keep dealing with the horde, and burn that Zit on the left. There's not much else to say at this point. All I can really tell you guys is be careful with your ammo. On the higher difficulties, you tend to run out very quickly, so I recommend you run some ammo in your deck. You can go and look up the deck that we made for this boss. It's very useful. It was in our previous video, and it will help you out a lot. Just keep in mind, if everybody's running an AR and an SMG, or an AR or a sniper, or whatever, you're gonna end up running out of ammo a lot faster, and you can't share your ammo with your teammates. This is why I always encourage players to try to have no more than 2 ARs on your team when doing this boss, or 2 SMGs. You can share and have one person run a sniper, or have 2 snipers and a couple people have pistols or shotguns, whatever, and that could be your person who helps focus specials. But if you have too many ARs and too many SMGs, you're gonna run out of ammo unless you're all running massive amounts of it. But if you've done everything correctly and everybody's communicated well and you've done all the mechanics the way they're supposed to be done, you should have beaten the boss at this point. Congratulations, give yourself a high five, you just beat the game. So now go do it on a harder difficulty if you haven't already. Trust me, it gets quite a bit harder. Well, that is going to be the end of the video today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more Back 4 Blood content, please subscribe down below. Make sure to hit that like button. It really helps us out in the YouTube algorithm. Leave comments if you have suggestions for other people that are positive, and you can maybe say, hey, try this strategy out. Hey, I tried this deck and it worked really well. Let us know what you guys think that maybe we missed out on and could help out other players do this boss. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Game Advisor, and I'll see you next time.